So this season was a huge year for wine caps. It was also the first year that I grew them. I had put the spawn and the wood chips in outdoor beds in February, and then they came up in late spring, early summer. And you know, there was a respectable harvest, nothing huge or anything like that. We also had a pretty substantial drought in the mid to late spring, which may have slowed them down a little bit. And then in the fall, they came in with a huge flush, and I was able to harvest a lot of wine caps. So I'm gonna call that a success. And in order to sustain that success, what I need to do is I need to continue to provide the wine caps with a food source, right? Particularly wood chips. They like a majority of their carbonaceous material to be hardwood wood chips, and so I know that I have incorporated sumac into my growing system here. The sumac spreads by the roots. It comes up in many different places, and I prune it back after each growing season as well to control the amount of shade that it gives, because I do want it to give a little bit of shade, but not too much. And so with a lot of these prunings, or when I dig up the certain sumac shoots that are coming up in places where I don't want them to be, now I have a use for these branches. However, the question is, how do I turn these branches and prunings into wood chips? And so in this video, I'm going to show you how I did that this year as opposed to what I did last year. So let's go check it out. So we purchased a wood chipper online, right? It was only about 300 bucks, not a huge cost, given that a lot of these, you know, other wood chippers, like the industrial ones, that can grind up larger limbs and such, and trunks, can cost thousands or tens of thousands of dollars. So the fact that this wood chipper was only around 300 bucks was not bad, and I saw it as a worthy investment for how much use I anticipate to get out of it. This wood chipper is made by EARTHWISE. It's a really cool wood chipper. I love the color of it, by the way. It's a really bright lime green. Very nice. If you want any other specific details on the specifications of the machine itself, and the outlet hookup, and what kind of power it needs, and the cords, and any type of troubleshooting or anything like that, I will link a video in the description, or note it up as a tag. I'll probably do both. But anyway, this wood chipper is really cool, right? It can grind up the branches of the sumac very easily. I also use it for some tougher plant stalks of like annual or perennial plants, like sunchokes or sunflowers, or, you know, asters or whatever, because it helps to break them down into smaller pieces, and then I can put that in the soil, and then they can break down on the soil or in the soil at a much faster rate, and they can be used much more effectively as a mulch if that's what I use them for. So mostly what I'm doing for these sumac is I am harvesting, I am using these prunings, right? So it's going to be ramial wood, right? That means that it's going to be the wood of that year's growth. So I'm going to be using predominantly that. And the ramial wood chips aren't as difficult to break down, and they may be higher in some nutrients like nitrogen and other things like that. And the sumac, by the way, is, while it is technically a hardwood, it is not the hardest of tree woods out there. So I feel like it's a good compromise, because it can grind up pretty easily in the EARTHWISE chipper and still be used as a hardwood for wine caps, hopefully. Right, so I want to see. So I'm going to be using predominantly all sumac, maybe some mulberry, but mostly sumac too, because I want to see if how the wine caps do with this sumac mulch. I want to make sure that those two aspects, both the sumac mulch and the wine caps, are compatible with each other. I don't have a whole lot of experience with growing wine caps, or really any mushrooms for that matter, but I'm really excited to see where this project will take us. So when using the wood chipper, of course, it's important to be cognizant of safety, right? We want to wear safety goggles in case of any flying pieces of wood. And we also want to wear ear protection, right? And this ear protection, you can use, you know, these ear mufflers. And while the chipper isn't super loud compared to other chippers out there on the market, it still produces a good bit of noise, and that noise is going to be sustained for however long you're going to be chipping the branches, which in my case especially can be you know, a couple of hours or so. So I always make sure that I'm wearing goggles and ear protection. Gloves is also a really good idea, since when you're feeding the branches into the chipper, the branches can vibrate pretty intensely, and it can kind of make your hands kind of feel a little bit uncomfortable, right? Especially when it's cold outside, like during the winter time, which is the time of year when I'm commonly going to be doing this activity. Gloves provide an excellent buffer between your hands and the branches, and it can make the process a little bit more enjoyable. Now, as with all things, nothing is ever perfect. And this includes the wood chipper as well. It can clog at times, but usually that's due to, in the bin, it will build up wood chips in the front of that bin, and then it will get backed up in the chipping apparatus. So it's always good to run a bunch of branches through, and then every so often check that bin and make sure the wood chips aren't building up in the front. And if they are, then just make sure to kind of even it out in the bin. You know, shake the bin a little bit, and then you can put it back in and continue chipping, you know. And then you may have to check that bin, of course, multiple times before it's full, but as long as you do, it doesn't tend to build up in the front, and it doesn't get jammed, right? When it does get jammed, you'll know it, because the chipper will start kind of slowing down, right? And you'll hear it in that noise of when that machine is running. That's a pretty good indication that you have to check it. In that case, you'll have to turn off the machine, disconnect the power, and then there's a screw with a knob on it behind the intake chute. You can open up the machine and access the material that is causing the clog. Otherwise, as far as this EARTHWISE chipper goes, it is pretty much smooth sailing, and I've really enjoyed using it. It's been very effective in grinding up those sumac branches, as well as other branches that I find around the property or in the garden, even of those perennial and annual plants that have a stiff stem. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed this video on the EARTHWISE wood chipper. It's a very useful tool, especially in my case, where I have a lot of woody perennials, where such as the sumac or you know, mulberries or certain bushes that produce a lot of branches and prunings, right? And I want to continue to help build soil health. And in order to expedite that process, this wood chipper can be very handy in breaking down the material, so it breaks down faster, either on top of the soil or in the soil, depending on how it's incorporated into the growing system. So thank you so much for checking out this video. I look forward to seeing you in a future video. Take care.